coaches being back at Mizzou, it's probably your third time coming back here now. Just what's it like getting reacclimated to Mizzou and Columbia?
Yeah, it's pretty easy, right? Like I know the town pretty well. It keeps growing, it keeps getting bigger. There's better restaurants every time I come back, so I'm hoping to just stay back here and enjoy everything. So yeah, it's been an easy move back.
Yeah.
You've obviously been with a lot of organizations and done a lot of things over the years. What kind of approach do you want to bring to the Bulls?
So offensively, going through last year or the last couple of years that they've had, we created a lot of play discipline. That was one thing I wanted to bring, zone awareness. And then individually, everybody knowing where they're good. I think that's really important because sometimes we just get plans and we get ideas of what we need to do as hitters, but we don't know what's best for me. And so I have, 19 different hitters that, have many different approaches and parts of the zone that they need to work on and parts of the zone they need to hunt. So getting them to think, I think that's the biggest thing. It's the biggest thing with all players, whether it's baseball or softball, but getting them to be non-dependent on the coaching staff and understand the game and what the pitchers are trying to do to them. So we've talked a lot, we have a lot of side conversations on what pitchers are trying to do to us and how we're going to overcome that and how we're going to be successful.
Well, how do you overcome that? How do you really attack the pitchers like you're talking about?
So by understanding ourselves and not helping pitchers, right? Pitchers are good. The game starts with pitching, and especially in softball, right? One pitcher, as we saw last year in the postseason, right? She threw every postseason game for Texas Tech until the national championship game. Made one bad pitch or three bad pitch outs. So the game is dominated by pitching. So if we can find a way to level the playing field by zoning in and kind of understanding how big the strike zone is in our conference, because it is very different from conference to conference. So understand what's a strike, what's a ball, how do we approach that every single day and what we do with live bullpens, with live at bat. So every time a ball comes at a hitter, we're understanding what part of the zone that was in, so we can all speak the same language. And it's really, they've done a really good job understanding that and making the adjustment in a short amount of time. And hopefully we roll that into the season.
We also was talking yesterday about the analytical element that you've added to this approach. Can you take us sort of behind the scenes of what that looks like on a hitter-by-hitter basis?
We look at a lot of different numbers, and you have to understand that athletes all create different energy, right? So no matter what they do with their body, eventually the energy goes to the bat head and is transferred to the ball. So I have to figure out what is that number, right? And based on that, we have players that are this big, and then we have players that are this big, and they all have to have different roles. So getting them in their window of success, based on how hard they hit the ball. If I have players, I have a couple of players that hit the ball really hard, but they were hitting the ball really low, and so those really hard low balls in the fall were turning into double plays. Okay, so we had to make a mechanical adjustment to try to get that number to change, and so we have technology here that allows us to track that, which was awesome, because it'd be like, hey, you hit that ball really good, but it was on this certain angle. Let's see if we can get it in your window of 30 to 35 degrees, and then they would make the adjustment and it would work. And vice versa, some of our players that don't hit the ball as hard were hitting it too high, and every time they thought they hit it good, it was right to an outfielder. So we had to figure out kind of where their window is. So we've used a lot of that in addition to the tracking technology of the strike zone. So every ball that we're running in here shows up on the screen where it was in the strike zone. I can make sure their decision was right or wrong, and then we can kind of learn from each one of those repetitions.
So are you meeting with each individual player and talking about maybe their tendencies and giving them tips and pointers for what they can do when they take another at bat?
Yeah, we do. So every hitter's different. So kind of understanding how much information you can give them. Right, there's some players that they understand it. Okay, I know what's going on. You can tell me more. And then there's other players where it has to be very basic and very simple and maybe a feel-oriented cue. So we make that adjustments in all of our live at bats from at bat to at bat, and then the next step is taking that into the game against competition.
How much of a mindset change does that require when you've got players who maybe can't take in as much information as some others? How much goes into just adjusting how they look at it?
It's how it's presented. So a lot of times, we'll just go into my office and I'll show them videos of their at-bats. on the screen, and it makes sense. And then I'll use some of the graphics that go along with it and draw a few lines, and they're like, oh, I totally see where my barrel is and where the ball is. So sometimes it's as simple as that. And then, boom, we can attach a cue to it. And then other times the player wants to know, well, I see where my barrel is. Well, how do I change that or fix that, right? And then you get into the weeds a little bit with those players. And if they can handle it, great. And you'll know if they can handle it within like a couple minutes. They'll give you a blank stare, and you're like, okay, let's just work on this. So, yeah, it's just trial and error really when we get started.
Do you think that yesterday's scrimmage, high offensive output from both Team Black, Team Gold, do you think that is a sign that these things are working, that the mentality to play it and these analytics are helping, or at least going forward, a good sign?
I do, yeah. I mean, we made really good strides from when our first game in the fall to the last game of the fall, and then once we came back in January, we made even more strides. So, finding barrels and hitting some balls hard and hitting a couple balls out, that's great, but it's the decisions that we're making within the zone that will kind of last throughout the season, and that's probably the most important part of our offense that I'm proud of right now.
Just to clarify, when you say attach a cue, is that something you want them looking for with the pitch coming in, or something they want to feel?
It's usually a feel.
Okay.
Yeah, so sometimes it has to do with swing plane. We need to be a little bit flatter or come out more. Maybe it's something with a front shoulder or a chin, or where their weight is centered. So usually cues we'll use more in batting practice mode, and then there'll be very simple, like on-deck cues that we give them, or when they're coming in, out of the dugout. Hey, remember, we're going to kind of work on this, and then we'll shift more focus to pitch selection. What the pitcher's throwing and what we're looking for.
From what you can gather, how much different is what you're doing now compared to what was happening here over the past couple of years?
I don't really know. I mean, there were different mechanical things, different drills that were done would be the only thing I really see difference-wise, but everybody's got a different mentality. Everybody communicates with players and creates relationship with players differently. I don't know. I can't speak on that one.
What stood out to you most about the program when you came in for the first time?
Coach Anderson, so knowledgeable. One of my favorite parts of coaching with her is that she kind of has this baseball lingo and baseball mindset from just being around the game and constantly seeing things, right? Like constantly watching games, and obviously her husband, Patrick, being a minor league manager. So it's been really fun to hear the little cues. Like we kind of speak the same language, and just watching the way that she leads and motivates. There's different levels of leadership and how head coaches work. Some head coaches want to kind of be on the side and let people, and some people want to be in the weeds, and she knows an incredible amount of information about every single aspect of the game, which is great for me. I have to learn that. I know hitting and I know offense, but learning the subtleties of softball, the short game, and different bunt defenses, and has been fun. So that and then the fan base. Holy cow! The amount of fans that support. Unfortunately, when I was with baseball, there weren't a lot of fans. Maybe it's colder over there at Taylor Stadium, which I think it is colder on that hill for sure. But the fan support for softball, the stadium's great. It's all been pretty awesome since I've been there.
Are there any specific players who are taking particularly big jumps from the fall to spring?
We have some. Sanaya Hill has been amazing from the fall and last summer when I saw her. Addie Waits is a really good player and had to make some swing adjustments for this level, which she did quickly. Stefania Abrascato she's been hitting the ball well since the fall, and small adjustments, and CB, who helps me, Bella, who helps me with the offense. She spends so much time with Fania, and we do a lot of motor preference stuff, which is kind of how the body works and rhythm, and she's an expert at that. So she's teaching me, but a lot of the cues and a lot of the rhythmic things that we do offensively kind of runs through Bella, and I know it's helped Stefania a ton. Yeah. And Sydney Forrester obviously is, came from the high school level, right, where you can kind of get away with things. and it wasn't quite working in the beginning, and then all of a sudden every single week, like, I knew what I wanted to work on with her and she saw it, but it was like every week we're getting a little bit closer, and the last 2 weeks or so she's been really good. So I'm proud of the way they work, and I'm proud of the way that they take information and they're trying to get better.
You've hit on it a couple times, because where have you had to change your approach or evolve your approach from baseball into softball?
Yeah, so softball's different in the fact that you can't yell and curse at them. No, you can still yell at them. It's great, but no, it's the pitch is and the ball is heavy, right? Compared to a baseball, the softball's heavy, and the bats, softball bats are lighter, and there's less mass. So you have an object with less mass hitting something with more mass versus baseball, which is really heavy bat, and then the ball is light and it jumps off. So there's some moves that I've adjusted over the past couple years to get players to be more consistent with the impact point of softball. And there's certain workouts that we have to do to be stronger in those positions, because the baseball players are strong, right? They got big, strong forearms. They're 210 pounds, 215 pounds. And so we don't have those large muscles and levers to kind of help us, so we have to support it with our body a little bit more. So there's a few subtle building energy, and all that stuff's the same whether you're swinging a baseball bat, a softball bat, a golf club. It doesn't really matter. But that point of impact and through impact means a lot more in the game of softball. That and the pitches. Pitchers have usually better control in softball, I found, because we're throwing from, their release point's about 38 feet, right? So if you're throwing something 38 feet versus in baseball, your release point's probably like 53 feet, right? The further you go, the more offline things get, right? Like, think if you're an Olympic shooter or something like that. When it's close, everybody's a great shot. So in softball, we're really close, and the girls are really accurate. And so being a hitter and staying disciplined and not chasing becomes even more important.
Good.
Good. You got it, guys.
Thanks, Coach.